we generally think higher the tax rates, higher will be the tax revenue collection. How simple does it sound? But that's not exactly how it is. Yes, in fact, with lower tax rates, there can be higher tax revenue collection as well. And exactly on that principle, the Kelkar Committee gave its recommendation. So in today's video on our economy committees, we will be deep diving into the Kelkar Committee. We will understand as to what was the scenario in India, what was the problem that we were facing that we required Kelkar Committee to be established. Then we will see what all the recommendations this Kelkar Committee gave. Then what was the criticism of that, what was the government's response on that, and how important or relevant its recommendations are still for Indian economy today as well. So let's get started with the Kelkar Committee. Now, as I mentioned that the lower tax rate can give you a higher tax revenue collection. So that is exactly what was being discussed or thought of, that can lower taxes actually increase the tax revenue. Now, why are we even thinking on those lines? Because at that time in India, the tax rates were very high. Now, when the tax rates are high, we may think that the tax revenue collection would also be high. No, that was not the case. Now, why was that not the case? Because there was high tax evasion also. People were evading taxes, people were not paying the taxes. As a result of which the tax base was narrow, means the number of or percentage of people paying taxes was very narrow, very less. At the same time, because of narrow tax base, of course, compliance is less. Tax rates are high, because of which people evade tax, because of which compliance is low, so the tax base is narrow. Another reason for tax base to be narrow and less people paying is the fact that the procedure was very complex, cumbersome and tedious. Also, the government had provided numerous exemptions as well. Every now and then in different sectors there would be exemptions, so people would anyhow not require to pay the taxes. Because of all these reasons, ultimately our tax revenue collection took a hit. And for a country like India, the tax revenue collection is so important. Because we are a developing country, we have certain pressing needs. We are surrounded by amazing countries, like, right, who give so much of trouble to us, like the state-sponsored terrorism, the illegal immigration. So we have to man our boundaries, the land boundary, the maritime boundary. We have to patrol the airways, waterways. We have to ensure that the illegal immigration is not there. And of course, the needs within our own country of the welfare nature of our state, etc., has to be taken care of. Plus, we want to develop, improve our education, infrastructure, health infrastructure, digitize, research and development. So we need money, right? But that was not there, even though taxes were very high. So let us see what this company is going to recommend and whether that works out or not. Before we move ahead, an important announcement with respect to the new batches that are starting at Legacy IAS Academy, regular as well as weekend batch. Weekend batches are tailor-made for the working professionals and college-going aspirants, whereas the regular batch is for the full-time aspirants, which goes Monday to Friday. Now, each of our batch has a maximum of only 40 aspirants, so as to have personal attention on each and every aspirant. Once you enroll with us, there are a lot of advantages that you will get at Legacy IAS Academy. Some of them are listed here. For example, the comprehensive coverage of the syllabus, one-on-one mentorship, doubt solving and regular interaction with the educators that you just saw. This is the game changer. Maximum size 40, as I mentioned. There will be daily mains answer writing practice. We will give you such rigorous practice that even if we wake you up from the sleep and make you write answers, it will be UPSC level. So that comes through practice, and that will happen only when you solve it on or write it on a daily basis. Of course, we will have test series for both prelims and mains to make Legacy IAS Academy your one-stop solution for UPSC journey. You come, you enroll over here, and you forget anything and everything else outside this academy with respect to your UPSC. Plus, we provide 360-degree coverage of current affairs in a prelims and mains integrated manner via the live classes. At the same time, one of the most important decision of your UPSC journey would be the optional paper. So Legacy IAS Academy offers the 4 most popular optionals. Psychology, very concise syllabus. Anthropology, probably the smallest syllabus of any UPSC optional. Sociology, same is the case, very concise and concentrated syllabus on only few topics. Majority of the questions are asked. And PSIR, in which also takes care of your GS, governance, international relations, so it helps you there as well. And these are the 4 most sought after optionals that are there. So if you are choosing any one of them and preparing for 27 or 28, you can enroll with us. The batches are going to start from 17th of August, so make sure you enroll before that. So if you want to enroll with us, you can simply scan the QR code or log on to our website or call on the numbers mentioned over here. Now let's continue with our committee. Let us look at what were the economic problems in front of us that there was a need to establish the Kelkar Committee. First things first, high tax rate. Now because of high tax rate, we were avoiding the tax and evading the tax. There was tax avoidance and tax evasion. What is the difference between the two? Tax avoidance means you are manipulating the law, not manipulating as such, you are finding a loophole in the law in order to ensure that there is no tax liability on you. So this is well within the bounds of the law, as such you might not be punished for that. But tax evasion means you are legally liable to pay the taxes, but still you are not paying the taxes. This is illegal and you would be punished for that. Then the tax base was narrow, of course, because the tax rates are high and there are tax avoidance and evasion. That means less people are paying the taxes, so the tax base is quite narrow. Then exemption culture. A lot of people, lot of industries and a lot of things are exempted, not paying the taxes even if they are making the profits. Multiple indirect taxes, central indirect tax, state indirect tax, within the state multiple indirect tax, octroi, this, that, a good travels from one state to another tax, then another. So if a good is traveling from multiple states, multiple taxes will be imposed even further on that. So that was an issue. And the tax administration problem, wherein the procedures were very complex, acting as a nudge for the people to not pay the tax. All of this led to the revenue concerns, the government not making enough money. That was the concern. So in this scenario, the Kelkar task force was formed. Now let us look at the committee itself. So the committee is generally named after the chairperson. So this committee established in 2002. Chairperson was Dr. Vijay Kelkar. So hence the name Kelkar Committee. Constituted by whom? The Government of India. Now, structure, very important. Actually, it was divided into 2 task forces. The first task force and the second. The first task force dealt with the direct taxes, where the second one dealt with the indirect taxes. Now, let us look at the key recommendations that it gave with respect to the tax system. So it gave recommendations with respect to direct taxes and indirect taxes. Let us see them one by one. First is with respect to the direct taxes. It said lower and simplify the tax rate. Already it was high, people are evading and avoiding. So Kelkar Committee, see, its recommendation is coming with respect to the problems that we were having. Right, so its recommendations will be corresponding to the problems that we were having. Tax rate was high, people were not paying, tax base was narrow, so less tax revenue collection. So it said lower the tax rate. When you lower the tax rate, more people will pay, more people in the tax net, tax base will be higher, revenue collection would go up. So lower the tax rate and simplify the tax rates as well. Simplify means make fewer different slabs and make fewer different percentages, etc. Don't confuse the people too much, right? Make it simple. This is going to broaden the tax base. In addition to this broadening the tax base, we should also do one thing. We should reduce the excessive exemptions that we are giving. And the deductions that we are allowing, rationalize the deductions, or else people are claiming a lot of deductions on their profit and ending up claiming that their company has not made any profit at all and not paying any taxes. So we need to also rationalize the deductions. Then bring more economic activity into the tax net. How can you do that? For example, try to convert the informal sector into formal sector. The things that are outside the ambit of the government, bring it inside the ambit of the government by formalizing the economy, by making the businesses register, by incentivizing them, by facilitating their registration, so on and so forth, by making the registration simpler, by making the tax payment simpler, by making the process simpler, easy to understand. You can do that as well. In addition to this, abolish the wealth tax is also what it said. It recommended the abolition of wealth tax. What was wealth tax? See, if you had amassed wealth of more than 30 lakhs, then whatever is the additional amount, let's say you have amassed a wealth of 40 lakhs. This is 10 lakhs more than 30. So on that additional 10 lakh, you were required to pay wealth tax of 1% every single year. The committee asked to abolish, recommended to abolish this wealth tax. Then the agriculture income. This committee recommended the bringing up of agriculture income within the tax framework through an appropriate mechanism involving the states. States should be involved, and there needs to be agriculture also that should come under the tax net. So it has been recommended by Kelkar Committee in 2016. Economic advisor, economic survey also championed for taxing the agriculture income. In fact, before that, this Kelkar Committee also had recommended the same. And then corporate tax reforms, it asked to lower the tax rate, give fewer exemptions, which will broaden the tax rate and reduce the distortion. You remove exemption, but at the same time, don't keep the tax rate high, lower it as well, so that people are facilitated to pay the taxes as such. So what it recommended, which are of course good recommendations. Now let us look at what it said for the indirect taxes. First, rationalize the custom duties. Rationalize means make it rational, make it fair, reduce the custom tariff distortions that are there. Again, too much of distortion, different slabs, reduce all that. Then reduce the exemptions here as well as strengthen VAT. VAT is what? Value added tax. Value added tax ensures that the tax is paid only on the value that is added and not on the entire product, because previously a tax on its raw material or intermediate good would have already been paid. So it ensures that the cascading effect of the tax, of the indirect tax, is not there. That is the concept of VAT, is what it said. This VAT is going to reduce the cascading effect of the taxes. Further, it also mentioned about harmonizing the indirect taxes. Now, harmonizing the indirect taxes means the center and the state, they have multiple tax. Not just that, center's indirect tax would be the same throughout the country, but different states will have different tax rates throughout the country, throughout different states. There will be different taxes. So we need to harmonize, so that how can we harmonize? What is the meaning of harmonize? Greater coordination, so that we have one tax, one nation. That concept is going to come from the Kelkar Committee, wherein one nation, one tax means a single product should have the same tax rate in each and every Indian state. No matter which state you are in, you should pay the same tax. That is the concept of one nation, one tax, is what it mentioned. And then long-term direction. It wanted to play the long-term game, a long-term game, in the sense that don't look at the immediate increase. When you rationalize it, when you make it fair, when you reduce it, when you ensure more people pay it, then over a period of time, more and more tax revenue would be collected. That was the idea. So long-term direction. Now this multiple indirect taxes were there. They asked to rationalize it, lower it, harmonize it, as at the same time come up with a value added tax system wherein only the value that is added on the product will be taxed. Right, this will lead to greater integration, and all this we can actually see in our goods and services tax. Now let us look at the government's response. See, government did not immediately impose everything, because there's a lot of things, and also it is a reform which needs to come in a transitional manner. It would also require changes in the tax laws, changes in the constitution, in the power of the state to tax the different things. As a result of it, when GST came, it came through a Constitutional Amendment Act. So we did not immediately implement it, but in a transitional manner, over a period of time, we have implemented that. Right. So what has been the important developments 2003 onwards, we continued the rationalization of tax rates, strengthening the tax base, increasing the tax base, reducing the exemptions, and a separate Kelkar task force on FRBM, fiscal responsibility and budget management implementation, was constituted. This 2004 Kelkar task force is on FRBM. Please remember that, whereas the 2002 one is for the tax reforms. So you can clearly see 2002 direct and indirect tax reforms, and 2004 is with respect to FRBM. So what we did is a long-term reform direction rather than immediate application, because a lot of changes were needed. Now let us look at the impact it had on India. Did it have a positive impact? Majorly, yes, absolutely. So it led to the shift in tax philosophy. India gradually moved from high tax rates plus numerous exemptions to moderate rates but a wider base, which will help you to collect more revenue. Improved tax administration, technology involvement came, information system, taxpayer services, voluntary compliance is also asked from the, so the trust in people has also been established. Indirect tax rationalization, we emphasized on VAT, value added tax, so that the cascading effect of the tax goes away. Input tax credits, if you have already paid tax on the raw material or the intermediate good, what you will do is you will pay lesser tax on the finished good because some part have already been paid. So that is input tax credit. This reduced the cascading effect of the taxes. And center state harmonization is, we already see through GST, it's the one single rate that is imposed everywhere. However, there has been a criticism, right? In the hindsight, the criticism would have faded, but there was a criticism at the time that revenue risk might be there. Lower tax rates and removal of exemptions could initially create revenue uncertainty. Why? You are lowering the tax. People who are not paying, stop paying because of high tax rate, might not start paying. They might still be in inertia and not pay at all, and the others who are paying are going to be taxed at a lower rate. So that there was a risk of revenue, but we have basically came a far way along and ensured that tax base has actually increased. But this was a risk at the time. And another criticism was taxing agricultural income, which was politically sensitive, so the government would not want to do that, even though it would logically make sense. Constitutionally complex as well, because it's a federal, the states will also be involved over there. Then exemption removal, the removal of exemption, this can face a lot of resistance from the industries who actually needed the help of the government. And implementation gaps, several recommendations were implemented either partially, gradually, or with modification. Gradually, we can understand that, but there were certain modifications, so that was the criticism, that whatever the committee recommended, you did not implement it. However, let's say you can talk about at a macro level, this had a really positive impact. So let us see what has been the legacy or what is the current relevance. Our old approach was high rates, numerous exemptions, narrow base because of evasion and avoidance. Now that has changed, right? So this is the old approach. What was the new approach? Instead of high rate, have lower and simpler rates, fewer exemptions, which will lead to broader tax base, better compliance, and stronger. That means higher revenue is going to come out of that, right? Now, what is the current relevance of this committee? So the goods and services tax that we see, it has its genesis in the Kelkar Committee, right? It has led to tax base expansion. More people are paying taxes now. That is because of that. It talked about involvement of technology, and we do have digital tax administration that is happening. Formalization of the economy. Remember, I mentioned how to bring the economy or the other part of the economy into the tax net by formalizing them, by ensuring that they are registered with the government of India, with the tax on the tax portal, on the GST portal. Even though they might be paying very small tax right now, going forward they may become big and they would also start paying taxes. So that is very important. Ease of doing business has also improved. When you have easy process for payment, for the tax payment, etc., of course there is ease of doing business, because you will require less effort, less money to comply with the rules and regulations that are there. It increased the tax compliance, as well as it led to fiscal consolidation. Leading to fiscal consolidation means it helped It helped us increase our revenue and lower our expense, leading to lowering of the fiscal deficit. Lower fiscal deficit means lower shortfall. That means fiscal consolidation. Right. So this is the importance of the Kelkar task force. Subsequently, GST has also come, as we have seen. GST 2.0 has come, so GST is only becoming better and better. Simplicity, ease of paying the taxes, increase in the tax base, all these are the positives that you can directly mention in your mains answer writing. If you are asked to evaluate, don't forget to write the criticism as well. So that's about it from me on the Kelkar committee. Stay tuned to Legacy IAS Academy's YouTube channel for the next videos in this series and many more videos for your UPSC journey. Thank you.